Hey everybody, Devin here. Are you trusting the wrong things? This video, we're gonna go deeper than we normally do. I'm increasingly worried about our society and the way that we think about things. I think that we are starting to worship demagogues, which are people who appeal to your emotional side, your fear, or your irrationality, rather than people who are reasonable. And I'll preface by saying that every video that I have on this channel has never received a dislike. I think if there is one that's going to do it, it's going to be this one. I hope not, but we'll see. I really do think this subject is important, so we're going to get into it, and we're going to get into it without unabashed. There's not going to be any holding back here, because I really think that people need to think about this. We have a lot of anger and a lot of violence in the way that we think about opposing sides of things. And this has caused a large division in the Western society today. So let's get into it. So what is truth? How do you build your model of the world to support an objective opinion? Let's start with personal experience and anecdote. And I'll use an example here. So let's say that someone goes to a city like Los Angeles and they say, yeah, so I was in Los Angeles and I was shopping, I was in a grocery store, and all of a sudden this group of guys came in and they started throwing stuff and causing all these problems. They were yelling and the police had to come and take them out. I couldn't believe it. Los Angeles is so violent. It's crazy. Like there was people getting murdered everywhere over there. And now this is the first problem. This is anecdote. So anecdote means that a person uses a personal experience to build a model of the world. They think, okay, the people in Los Angeles, this thing that I've seen has caused this violence, so Los Angeles is a violent place, ergo, that place sucks, it must be super violent. Rather than looking at the macro, which probably shows that millions of people live in Los Angeles every day and they are unbothered, it's definitely a city that you can visit and you would most likely be fine. I can't tell you how many European and Asian people come over into my company and they say, God, Los Angeles is so violent, it's so scary, like everybody has guns there. And this is based on anecdote. This is why this happens, is that they hear this from a friend or a trusted source and they now think that it's true. You have to be very careful with personal experience. Oftentimes, personal experience doesn't reflect what the truth is. And we're going to get into how to discern truth, but the first thing you really need to be careful of is personal experience or anecdote, both your own and other people's. So how can you really be sure that information is correct that you're receiving? We live in a world where everybody has a voice, and there's more information than ever before. And now you're not trusting big news. You're not even trusting little news. You really don't even know who to trust. So the first thing that I think is a remedy to this problem of building a model of the world is a personal practice that I try to implement whenever possible. And that's that if you have an issue that has two very strong opposing sides, and it's something that a lot of people believe either way or another, usually there are pretty good arguments on both sides, and it's not usually a black and white problem. It almost always has shades of gray. So one of my personal rules that I would invite you to try, if you ever think of a problem or a position, you ever take a position where you believe, no matter what, that your side is right, and you cannot possibly see the other person's side or any good in the other person's side, immediately assume you are wrong and reevaluate. This is something that I try to do. So if I see a certain side of an issue, no matter what it is, no matter how outlandish or offensive it is, I will always try to consider that the other side of that issue could have some reason, could have a good case. It doesn't matter what it is. And I'll do that, even if I end up siding with my original opinion, I'll do that because I want to understand the people that hold that opinion. And that's the only way we can reach a civil discussion. We can only have improvement or advancement if both people are trying to understand each other's side. Where you don't have advancement and you have just absolute chaos is where you have one side berating the other side for believing what they believe and the other side doing the same thing. And neither of them see eye to eye on anything, and so they can't agree on a common ground. You will never, ever, ever have a conclusion that is positive from that result. So you have to be able to objectively see both sides of an argument, no matter how ridiculous it is. I think that a basis for building a model of the world has to start there. Next, you have to consider, am I having an emotional response to this issue? Is this because of something that was said to me? Do I feel bad about this issue because it's built on a basis of something that happened that was bad to me, based on personal experience, based on anecdote? Are these things that are happening to me because I'm angry about this for some reason, or because I'm personally emotionally compromised? This often happens in arguments and relationships. So a lot of times we will hold on to a position that we know is irrational with a friend or with a family member because we just don't want to give them the win. We don't want to give them the win. We don't want to have them have the victory. It's too tough for us to say, you know what, your position sounds reasonable. I want to concede. I want to give you that victory. And if we just get outside of ourselves and we say, yeah, you know what, that's right. That does sound like a reasonable thing. You're making grounds to that person being able to give you permission to give your side of the argument. I think the more that you can search a person for the reasons behind their reasoning on a subject and really try to like analyze it and then respect it, the more that you're going to be able to have a measured response that that person then respects you for and gives you the time of day for. But someone has to break down their defenses first. And usually you can't rely on it being the other person. A lot of the time it's not going to be the other person. So you have to ask questions. Why do you think that way? Like what are the building blocks that got you to that point of view? What's your supporting evidence that you have to get you to that point of view? And that brings me to the third way that I try to build my model of the world, which is peer-reviewed or cross-sectional studies. So if I'm looking at something like a certain supplement increases strength gains, like creatine monohydrate, for example, and I listen to someone in the gym that comes in and says, yeah, bro, I got 20 pounds of muscle mass taking creatine 6 times a day. I go, oh, okay. Well, I'll take that seriously, and I'll say, okay, well, that's really interesting. But then I'll go to NCBI or I'll go to PubMed and I'll try to get some peer review on this phenomenon and why this is happening. Even if I hear it from 10 different people, I'll still try to get a cross-sectional study that supports it, meaning that we go out to a lot of diverse crowds and we look and see if this is indeed happening on a wide scale. And there's lots of people that do research on this. And it turns out if you actually do that, you can find out that creatine monohydrate does help in strength gains. There's a bunch of studies that support this. So you can build a reasonable model of the world and then tell other people, yeah, creatine will probably increase your strength gains. Now, if someone does the same thing for St. John's wort, which is a herb that is typically used in helping depression and anxiety, there's a lot less peer review on that particular thing, and certainly there's no peer review on it increasing strength gains. So you got to take it a little less seriously. You have to maybe not discount that in your model of the world. And now here's the thing. If you have built reasonable belief on the basis that this thing does do that thing, and you start trying it, and now I start taking creatine every day and I am getting stronger, then that's where anecdote can actually build a better model and a better case for your own personal experience, as long as you describe it to other people as such. So when I talk to people about my personal experience with things, for example, my taking of magnesium, I think makes me smarter. It seems like when I take magnesium threonate in sufficient dosages, it helps me concentrate better. There's some evidence to show that magnesium does this, but not a lot of great evidence, so I don't know if it's true. So I will preface my statement to someone else on, well, I took magnesium and it did better for me, and there's some studies that actually support this, but the evidence is kind of thin, and I'm not sure it'll work for you because everybody's biology is different. And that preface is a lot better than taking the stance, yeah, you should take magnesium, it's going to make you smarter. And as soon as I say that, I've made an absolute, and now I'm dealing in something that's a lot more dangerous than my previous supposition offered. And it's the exact same in any kind of like difficult political debate where there's two sides of an issue. If you present the issue like, well, yeah, there's a lot of economic reasons and a lot of support for this subject, but maybe I'd like to see your side of it. I'd like to understand where you're pulling from and what your thoughts are. You can invite a discussion that is a lot more civil and that you can probably actually make progress on. But beyond just like arguments and beyond discussion, this is really valuable because by building this model of the world this way, you come off as a much more educated and reasonable individual that people want to talk to. And so that's where it relates into self-improvement and personal development. No one wants to talk to the guy that is like, yeah, this is how it is, and this is exactly how it is, and anything you say is wrong. Like, nobody wants to interact with that person. They want to interact with someone that understands them. They want to interact with someone that they think is willing to account for their opinion. And furthermore, a person that is holding a really extreme opinion probably knows it's extreme. And one of the big reasons that emotionally we attach to extreme opinions and we get into groups of people that have really extreme opinions about something, like all people of this color act this way, or everybody from this certain religion is like this. A lot of people clump up in those groups because they need that affirmative. They need that person that's going to say, yeah, you're right, I believe that too. So if you come at them thinking they're completely wrong, and you come from that side of the opposition, because again, you couldn't see that the two sides of the coin, you immediately offend them. You could shut them down right there, and you're never going to have a civil discussion with that person. But if you legitimately try to see their side of it, understand it, and even if you don't believe there's a single logical reason why they could think that way, then look for the emotional reasons. Look for the upbringing. Look for the reasons why they grew up that way, or why they listened to their parents and now they believe that way. There's a million different factors that go into why someone believes the thing that they do. And you'll find a way through that process to objectively respect everybody. Pretty much everybody has something good to say. It's very rare, it can happen, but it's really rare that you'll ever come across someone that doesn't have something to teach you and doesn't have something to show you. Every human being arrives at their conclusions just like you do, based on a set of emotional and logical responses that come to build their model of the world. And I find that if you accept that, and you accept people, one of the things is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's important, is that accepting everybody as a magical moment. So every time I run into someone, this is going to be a magical moment. I'm going to do a video totally just on this subject, actually, but I expect something good. I expect a teachable moment to happen as a result of this conversation. I don't expect it to go bad. I don't expect this person to be extreme or an asshole. I think it's going to be something that produces a good result in me. And when you come in with that expectation, you will get that result far more often than if you come in expecting negativity or that person's view to be so extreme. There's no way that you can possibly agree with it. So try it. Try actually looking at both sides of an equation as much as possible in conversations, discussion, and in matters that we are sometimes violently opposed on. And I say this because if you do this, you'll be one more person in the world that is adding to a world of reason and review that is intellectual and good versus being a person that holds an extreme side of the issues and it's just pissing everybody off. And I think the more of these people that we create, the better off we're going to be, and that's what's going to lead us to civil discussion. That's actually going to fix the big issues that we have in the world. We have tons of freaking problems, and the more that we just sit on each side of these issues and just yell at each other, not considering what the other side has to offer, the more screwed up we become. And it just seems like we're going further and further down that rabbit hole. So if I can convince a couple of people in this video to not do that and to objectively regard other people and respect other people's positions, we're going to be a lot better off, I hope. So I hope that none of this came off as arrogant or pretentious or anything. I didn't intend it to be that way at all. I just wanted to share what I offer as how I build my model of the world. Maybe it's not right. Maybe there's a lot more value in some of the things that I discounted. I don't know. If you think so, please leave a comment below and let me know. And I will look at that comment and take it really seriously, which is the whole basis of this video. And I'll respect it. If you have a differing opinion, that means a lot. And you should voice it. Okay. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you did like the video and it added value to you. Please follow me on other social mediums, which you'll find in the links below if you liked it. And looking forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for watching.